Good morning, everyone. It is the 10 o'clock hour. Today is Tuesday, September 22nd, 2020. The Board of Supervisors of the County of Del Norte and the governing body of all other special assessment and taxing districts for which said board so acts is now meeting in regular session. Only those items that indicate a specific time will be heard at the assigned time. All other items may be taken out of sequence to accommodate the public and staff availability. So we'll call this meeting to order, and Kylie, would you please take roll?
Supervisor Howard?
Present.
Supervisor Cowan?
Here.
Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes.
Supervisor Berkowitz?
Here.
Chair Hemmingson?
Here. Now we will take a moment of reflection.
Thank you.
And now if you all stand, Supervisor Cowan, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
We're on mute.
Okay, introduction of new employees. Finally, Jay.
We do have two, and Alan Wittagradov is going to go first, I believe. He has an employee he'd like to introduce.
Oh, well, I didn't know I was going to go first, but I'm more than happy to do so. I'd like to introduce Shadow Nunes. He is a local man who has spent 8 years in the construction field. Decided to come over to the public sector to give us a hand. He's doing a great job, and hopefully he'll stay for a while.
Welcome.
Okay.
I really
Welcome.
appreciate the opportunity to start my career here at the County of Del Norte. Thank you.
Great.
Get out of here. Go to work. Okay, I got two though. So Maggie. Okay. So we also have Margaret. We call her Maggie. Maggie Land. Maggie is also a local person here. Maggie actually started with us, what, 3 years ago?
Almost 3.
About 3 years ago. She was one of our workforce employees, and she's went through 2 rounds of that. And she's been working part-time for us, helping out when she could. And she did such a good job, we decided to keep her. So she is now a full-time employee, and we're very happy to have her as well.
Great. Welcome.
Welcome, Maggie.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys.
All right. Thank you.
So I guess it's my turn. This is Kim Nguyen. She comes to us via Stockton, California, and she is a Sacramento State graduate, similar to our previous rec coordinator. And she is trying to take on recreation in a new world right now. And it is a struggle to get everything coordinated and be able to run programs, but as soon as we are up to speed, we will be. And she's working on a couple of things that we'll be able to do with social distancing and the restrictions that we're under.
Welcome, Kim.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yep. Welcome. Okay. Anything else to say?
No, I think that's it.
She's quiet,
Okay.
but she gets a lot done.
Well, good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right.
And that
Okay.
should be
Council,
all
any
of our-
report from closed session?
There's nothing to report.
Thank you. At this time, I would request any deletions, corrections, or additions from board members to the agenda. In order to add an item to the agenda, the matter must have come to the attention of the county subsequent to the posting of the agenda, and the matter requires action before the next regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors. Are there any such items? Okay, Seeing none, we are going to move on to brief reports from county supervisors, and we're going to start with Supervisor Berkowitz.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Along with the rest of the Board of Supervisors, I attended a special board meeting held last Tuesday. In addition, I attended the Crescent City Rotary Club meeting, where we discussed the Navajo Indian Water Project. We learned that the reservation only gets about an average of 6 inches of rain a year. 40% of the population has no indoor running water or toilet. And this project will bring indoor water and toilets to the reservation and is funded by Rotary International. The Rotary Club of Crescent City contributed $1,500 to the project. I also met with several constituents concerning Measure R on the ballot. When asked what the money would be used for, I told him that among the uses, it would provide for law enforcement and emergency response, repair of potholes, maintaining the jail and criminal justice programs, and address blight and public nuisances, and provide for the maintenance of local infrastructure. And that's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, thank you. Supervisor Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Like Supervisor Berkowitz, I've also had questions concerning our ballot measure. And similar to Mr. Berkowitz, I emphasize the public safety aspects of that bill. As you're aware, with the decreasing revenues in the state of California, in particular coming to backfill various legislation that's been acted in the last 4 years, Del Norte County has had a very difficult time meeting the needs of our constituents as it relates to public safety and many other things, including roads and potholes and blight issues throughout the county. The measure, which was put on by the Board of Supervisors for our citizens of Del Norte County to vote on, I thought was a very good move on our part to let the voice of our citizens be heard, whether or not they would like to see public safety front and center. I think it'll be a positive move. We'll see come November 3rd, but at least the citizens are getting very curious, as Supervisor Berkowitz has alluded to, about this measure coming forward. I've also had some discussion with staff, both community development and our CAO's department, concerning the county's involvement with the AB 1383, which is the organics waste disposal legislation, and how the county may or may not be involved with that and interactions with the Solid Waste Management Authority. Also had a first 5 family commissions meeting, and also a special meeting of tri-agency to discuss debt relief with the USDA. Attended a California State Associated Counties special meeting concerning planning for our agricultural, environment, and natural resources committee meeting, which will be coming in October. And then, like Supervisor Henson and staff, was greatly involved in many, many meetings led by our staff, Forest Service, and others as it relates to the Slater fire. I would like to say at this time that I really appreciate the involvement of all. I know it's a job for many of the Del Norte County staff, but they've gone above and beyond, especially as it relates to emergency services, in really helping to meet the needs of our citizens. I know there's always room for improvement, and as CEO Serena has stated, all of that will be communicated during watchdown reports to try to make those improvements in the future. I know this fire was very quick in happening, especially for our residents in Gasky and how the evacuations occurred, but we had no time. And if we didn't do it and something happened, we'd all feel pretty dang bad about that. So I do want to say, especially to our volunteer firefighters in Gasky, our Caltrans road crews, our Del Norte County roads crews, and our sheriff's departments, that all your efforts have not gone unnoticed, especially by our residents in District 3, especially Gasky, and our folks on Oregon Mountain Road, to really make our lives a lot better and keep us out of harm's way. So thank you again. With Supervisor Cowan, attended a Solid Waste Management Authority meeting. Also attended an emergency board meeting where we declared a state of emergency potentially for our fire, the Slater fire. Attended a Delmar Resource Conservation District meeting, and then also had several conversations with Lee Howe in a effort by various funders to put in a performing arts center here in Delmar County. I'll be meeting with them later this week. Also work with California Department of Fish and Wildlife on many concerns as it relates to the closure of our forested lands and other public lands due to fire and how it impacted preference points as it relates to hunting in the state of California for elk and antelope. Those meetings, which occurred last week and then will occur this Thursday, appears that the state of California will address potentially any loss of preference points and the refunding of tag fees that were given for those hunts. So very happy to see that. Also made a lot of public comment as it relates to elk here in our community. There has been some feelings by constituents of our community and outside our community that the elk in Delmar County are at jeopardy. And with the potential decreasing populations as they've cited, which goes contrary to the data that's being collected by the state of California and their biologist Carrington Hilson, they believe that a recent phenomenon, which is the hoof rot disease, will rapidly decrease the hunting, or not the hunting, but the population in Delmar County. And they'd like to see the cessation of hunting in Delmar County for elk. So that issue will be discussed at this coming Thursday's California Fish and Game Commission. I do plan on attending that. Also, Supervisor Hemmingson, I will be requesting, along with yourself, potentially effects to District 3 as it relates to agricultural production and with the sudden oak death disease in our region. I'd like to have our Agricultural Commissioner, Justin Riggs, and UC Cooperative Extension scientist, Jana Valenkovic, present to the board and to the public about what this means for our community at our next meeting, if time allows. Also spent a great deal of time with Tom Fitzgerald in efforts to help reopen Highway 199 on the Oregon side of the border. Worked with Curry County Commissioner Court Boyce and Josephine County Commissioner Lily Morgan in efforts to allow Highway 199 to reopen. There was much concern about the impacts not only to our economy, but our residents that were seeking medical treatment within the Grants Pass area. I'm happy we're able to get that open this week and alleviate some of the concerns which had to do with looting if evacuations were not lifted and returned to level 2 for those communities that were evacuated from the Cave Junction area. And that is the end of my reports, Chair Hemmingson.
Yes, thank you. Roger, you still with us?
Yeah, we have a little technical difficulty, but I'm on audio now, so we've got this straightened out. So here's my report. A couple of Wednesdays back, our volunteer pride and community group was busy with a facelift at Brother Jonathan Memorial Cemetery and Park. A big thank you to Frank's Heating and Spas and Rumiano Cheese for sponsoring a crew of 4 from R.A. Kirkland Landscapers and Lawn Care in helping the city maintain its shorthanded city crew. Other volunteers were busy clearing trails and removing overgrowth along Howe Drive. The barbecue pits and other volunteers were busy cutting back curbs, sidewalks, and gutters along Play Drive and Kidtown. I guess we're on, so. Okay, let me finish off. Can you all hear me now? Because we have a little technical issue there. Hello? No, stay on that. Okay, all right. I guess we're having some technicals. I'll finish my report audio. Again, special thanks and recognition to Crescent Ace Hardware Rental for the use of its sidewalk edger, and Realtor Donna Zorn, who sponsored Sherry and Melissa Landscapers, and Tab Commercial Real Estate for its great assistance in working to help the city. This is week 9 of the PIC program. Pride in Community meets every Wednesday at 10 a.m. at Battery Point Lighthouse parking lot, and will continue through Sea Cruise weekend in October. As you know, the board conducted a special meeting last Tuesday to declare emergencies due to the Slater fire along Highway 199. This past Friday was the beginning of the Jewish high holiday services and holidays at the celebration of Rosh Hashanah this past Friday night, commemorating year 5781. The high holidays continue through Yom Kippur, the holiest day on the Jewish calendar. It's also called the Day of Atonement. That will take place this Sunday at sunset and ending Monday at sunset. This is a period of fasting and deep reflection in concluding the high holidays. I met with the Office of the Assessor and the Tax Collector in the last couple of days to learn that indeed property values are improving, and both offices are catching up with reassessment and collections which benefits our county. As of January 1st, 2020, the county's share of the property taxes was, as we all know, 19 cents on the dollar, and that figure up to January 1st is $3,523 million and some change. And since the beginning of this year, through to September 20th, those revenues will rise to approximately $3,887 million. This is good news, as the arrow seems to be turned in a positive direction in improving our revenue condition. Thanks to the Assessor's Office and the Tax Collector's Office for updating and improving, then showing the improving financial condition to our public. And this is, of course, an election cycle. It's beginning to ramp up in November. Signs are popping up about the county. I've received many calls, emails, and Facebook posts expressing opinion on the general sales tax increase, Measure R for the county, Measure S for the city. The public, of course, will vote on these items November 3rd. And as you know, good news, Highway 199 is open. Needless to say, thank you to the firefighters and heroes. Comes a bit short, but it is definitely appreciated, all the hard work these folks have done in opening up that highway, risking their lives and working tirelessly to open up the road to the community. Immediately after this meeting, we had planned to go up to, and we will still be going up to, the Idlewild station to buy lunch for the crew. Johnny James, supervisor, and the Caltrans crew. They're still busy, so we're going to hand them a gift card from Subway sandwiches, and recognize that for all the hard work they've done and continue to do to keep the road 199 open. And the county appreciates its hard work, and so does the public. And that is my report.
Thank you. Vice Chair Cowan.
Thank you, Chairman Hemmingson. Directly following the last supervisors meeting, I had a meeting with Director Snow and County Council doing some further questions and comments around Home Key project. As Supervisor Howard said and stated, we had a solid waste meeting where we discussed the possibility of bringing on a consultant to look at rates and agreements with Recology. I also attended the special board meeting to pass the resolutions around the emergency with the fires. We also have our quarterly last chance stakeholders meeting with Congressman Huffman's group. We are in the third phase for the geotechnical studies, they're starting this week. So we're in the third phase of the geotechnical studies. I'm sure, like myself, all of you have been traveling down south on 101, have noticed that they've been adding the road back to the area that we lovingly call the ski jump, and that is rising. They will be set to put another 8 feet on in mid-October. They're also putting a wall on the northbound so that the northbound road will go further up into the mountainside. So another wall will be being put up. The timeline has moved forward a little, but certainly not as much as we'd all like to see. So we continue to push that urgency. The one thing that has come out, we talked about it last year, Supervisor Howard and myself traveled to LA, and we had the opportunity to speak before the California Transportation Commission, along with Caltrans, when they went to ask for that last final push for the monies for all the necessary studies. And we were able to talk about our community and what this means to us. And that was followed up with an invite from the local Transportation Commission to come up here, where members of that board did travel up here last year as well. And what's important about this is it's front and center in front of the California Transportation Commission. Del Norte County and this project is on, it's in front of them, and they know how important it is to us and to our community. And they've invested, quite a bit of money, and we're hoping for them to continue to do that, to get this project. So what's come of it also is now they require Caltrans to give updates to them, to their board, which Jamie Mattioli, the project manager, did this past August and will continue to do. And I'm grateful about that. So we can continue to keep it in front of them. We need to be that voice to make sure that this project not only gets done, but gets done quicker than the original timeline. Had an airport authority meeting, an emergency meeting this week. Actually, I think it was yesterday, where we approved for the chair to go ahead and sign the grant when it gets over from DOT to continue with EAS service and the agreements with Contour. So it's good news that we will have Contour around another 4 years. They've done a great job. Thank you, Matt, and all the crew out at the airport to getting this done. It was down to the wire. I also have received many calls regarding the ballot measure, as has been discussed, and I too want to echo the words and thoughts of Supervisor Howard with the thank yous to all our emergency services and everything that was done, keeping us informed, helping the public, helping to evacuate Gasky. Always room for improvement, but I think they did an excellent job. For all those, I'm not going to start naming them, you know who you are, the different restaurants and people who stepped up and helped up, not only to help with the people who were evacuated, but to our emergency workers out there and keeping them fed. I was able to talk to a crew from from Texas and some other people from Missouri. People are coming all around the country to California to help us battle these fires, and thank you to all them as well. But locally, good job to everybody, and thank you for keeping our community safe. That's it for me. Chair, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a few meetings, had an agenda review, as was mentioned earlier, had a special board of supervisor meeting, had an RCRC meeting, which is representing California rural counties. Those are usually relatively lengthy, and this was no exception. A lot of information going on there. As was mentioned, Supervisor Cowan and I were part of the last chance grade stakeholders, had the meeting. As she noted, they're about halfway up in filling the depression that is there at what is lovingly known as the ski jump. There's going to be a couple more years before that's completed. So we're looking at completion in 2022, maybe not 2 years, but certainly all of next year. And as was mentioned, phase 3 environmental is completed, and they're going to start, they should already be starting the phase 3 drilling. Caltrans is working with their consulting and design firm, HNTB, for the next steps and a schedule. And if you want to see anything that's going on there, you can go to lastchancegrade.com. Also had another RCRC special executive meeting. We're replacing our president, who is retiring in December. And so we've got an all-out search going for a replacement. Those are going to be tough shoes to fill. So we got our work cut out for us there. As Supervisor Cowan said, we had a special Border Coast Regional Airport Authority meeting, and if everything falls into place, Contour Airlines will continue to be our AEAS service provider. As Supervisor Howard said, we've been getting a lot of updates on the Slater fire, and we participated in a lot of Zoom meetings and updates. The information is great. All the workers have really stepped up, as was mentioned, and I agree with all of that, all the thank yous and kudos that go out to them. They have done a superb job in working with ODOT and the Forest Service and Caltrans, all those people working together to get that road opened for traffic. So they did a good job in getting that open safely. We appreciate that. I have had several conversations about the ballot measures and explaining what's going on there. As was mentioned, we've done that. So that's the end of my report. So we're going to move into our 10:25 timed item, which is a public comment period. Members of the public may address the board on matters which are within the jurisdiction of the board. If you are addressing the board regarding a matter that is listed on the agenda, you may be asked to hold your comments until the board takes up that matter. Kylie, is there any written public comment?
Chair, I don't have any written public comment, but we do have some online, so give me one moment.
Okay.
Linda, you are on. You just need to unmute your mic.
Okay, thank you. First off, I'd like to clarify something in regards to Mr. Howard. He made a statement at the last meeting that Roger Gitlin doesn't live in the county, and that is a straight up lie. I don't know why Mr. Howard feels like he needs to lie to the public, but he does. And in regards to this 1 cent sales tax, it's very disappointing to hear two supervisors talking about how it's for potholes, law enforcement, and whatnot else, because nobody gave a presentation. You didn't give a presentation on what you were going to use the money for. You just decided to hop the back of the city. And we all know that the city, how they waste money. And I'm sure that what the public doesn't know is disaster preparedness, AKA sister city of Japan, for lavish trips to museums, bathhouses, and beer parties. I don't find that disaster preparedness, do you? And so passing this 1 cent sales tax is a hoax. As far as the roads, the only roads I see being done are in Chris Howard's section, because out here where I live, you know, it's almost third world country. All right. And especially in the city. So I hope this 1 cent sales tax does not pass, because it's just going to burden people here. And you people need to learn how to conserve your money. Additionally, I see we're going to have COVID with us until November 17th, 2022. I think there's going to be an uprising, folks, so you best prepare yourselves. If you're planning to take money from the government and keep us restricted till 2022, there's going to be a problem. And finally, maybe you should delete that $96,000 that you pay the airport bill with, and just forget that whole loan process, because maybe we could get some potholes filled. Thank you very much.
Okay. Kylie, is there any other public comment?
Chair, I am not seeing any more public comment at this time.
Okay, we will close the public comment period then and move on to, we've got another minute or so.
How about, can I make a motion to approve the consent agenda? That would be items 1 through 11.
Okay, let's take up the consent agenda. I have a motion.
Second that motion.
And I have a second. Is there any public comment on the consent agenda, Kylie?
I'm just going to give just a couple more moments. Chair, I'm not seeing any at this time.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or comments? Kylie, would you please poll the vote?
Supervisor Berkowitz,
Yes.
Supervisor Gitlin. Supervisor Gitlin, I think you are muted.
Yes.
Supervisor Howard,
Yes.
Supervisor Cowan,
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson.
Yes. Okay, we're going to move on to our 10:30 timed item, which is an update by Dr. Warren Raywalt, our County Public Health Officer. Dr. Raywalt, good morning.
Good morning to you all. The update's fairly brief today. I think the biggest thing is the local testing capacity effort, the North Coast Testing Partnership. That's what we're calling it. I believe it was on your consent agenda, so I think you've already voted to approve our participation, which is a good thing. We still expect to roll out sometime in October. We're trying to be a little careful about putting out some sort of exact date, but things are moving pretty well. I'm happy to report that we're on track, getting some of the equipment set up, putting out requests for some new employees to operate this stuff. And we've already gotten some responses. And that's a key thing because getting people signed up to run the equipment is a big part of it. As far as our status currently in Del Norte, I think we're up to 138 cases confirmed. We have 5 active cases. Over the weekend, in addition to a couple of positives that were reported, we had some questionable results from nursing home staff. When we went back to test those individuals, was a small number. They came back negative on local testing. So we're trying to sort through what that implies. The nursing home's been ramping up their testing and retesting their staff and all their residents. They completed most of that yesterday. They're going to finish it today. Nobody's showing any symptoms over there. I was over there over the weekend. So we'll see what this turns out to be, but I'm sure people have heard about it because the nursing home sent out notifications to all the residents' families that there were potential positive staff members. We continue to see a pretty steady flow of cases. Again, pretty much in a spread out pattern. We're not really connecting the dots to anything in particular, and this kind of is representative of what we'd expected at this point of community spread, still fairly low level. I will say though that our numbers by the tier system, we're kind of skating on the edge all the time about moving to the tier that we're in now and not a favorable direction. It would be to the next lower tier. I'm still hopeful that won't happen. I think based on what we know from the data that should be in the hands of CDPH, we won't make any movement this week. But you know, again, it can change from week to week because that's the way it's set up right now. I do want to let you all know, though, there is a way for us to plead our case with the state. They're kind of working out the final details of this. I participated at the state work group that was talking about this. They call it adjudication. It's principally to give counties the opportunity to challenge the data that the state used to make their calculation. But for small counties especially, there's other factors that we're able to present to the state that might preserve our tier. So that's being worked out. I think when the time comes, if it comes, we're going to plead our case, and if it's appropriate, and I expect that we'll see some good results. I'm hopeful anyway. I don't have a lot of other things to report. The hospital still remains pretty inactive, and we're doing a lot of outpatient diagnosis of cases. They are reporting some of our cases to us. Others are coming from other directions into the state database. But we're getting our reports pretty timely. We're real happy with that. We think that system has helped us a lot, and we're going to try and keep it going. And I'll take any questions.
Good morning, Dr. Raywalt. Can you hear me okay?
I sure can.
So I just want to update our figures as of, this is my latest report shows September 21st, 138 cases, 5 are active, no hospitalized, 8,509 are tested. Is that accurate, or is that up to date, or can you update us, please?
I don't think there's anything that's changed since yesterday. I have not really spoken to my nursing staff this morning yet. I'm going to talk to them a little bit later today just to make sure our reports are current.
Is there anything on the horizon in changing or loosening up any of the restrictions on dining in more than 50% or music in dine-in services or things like that we've been asking about relax? Is that changed at all?
I haven't heard any talk about music lately. There was some discussion at the state level a while back about this, but I think it's kind of taken a bit of a back burner. The tiered system is kind of the standard right now, and I don't think we can expect to get any further relief. There is still some talk among the small counties to try and see if there's a way to get a little bit of a carve out for us. I'm happy with what we have. I think it's better than what we had. I wish we could have a little more flexibility in our decision making at the local level, and I think that's what your question implies. But I don't see the state changing too much and allowing too much right now. I think it's an ongoing discussion, and obviously this has evolved a lot over the summer. You know, it's changed a lot from attestation and filing all those documents that we had to do back in May to now this system. I think it needs to play a little bit longer at this level, and we can hope for some flexibility in the future.
Thank you.
Anybody have any other questions? Chris, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Hemmingson. Dr. Raywald, yeah, we've had a few discussions, as you're aware, and trying to figure out how best rural counties can play their hand in more self-governance as it relates to COVID. And I know CSAC and RCRC both are having conversations at the state level and helping to get a little bit more local control, to put it a little better way, to allow you to make some of those decisions along with the board in moving at a little quicker pace than the state's currently allowing. As you're aware, it doesn't take but a half a case or a quarter of a case to throw us into this potential downgrade based on what their threshold is 1 per 100. And that's just not realistic for small rural, especially with a population of less than 28,000. My largest concerns is, and I haven't heard, and I continue to push at the state level, is there doesn't seem to be an end game to this. Even if there's a vaccine that becomes available, what are you hearing from Dr. Galley, who has currently refused to answer my questions, or anybody at the state about what is the goal? What is the goal to get out of the situation we're in and get the economy and our citizens to return to some normalcy as we knew before February 15th, 2020?
Well, the way I read this, now that's a tough question because it's very hard to get a clear goal, as you mentioned, stated, as an overriding sort of strategy. The way I read this, though, is I think that pretty much everyone in the country has kind of defaulted to the strategy of managing the disease activity at a tolerable level. In other words, a level that you're not impacting the medical system, you're allowing it to move through the community, affecting people who are going to have good outcomes. It's not a strategy to develop herd immunity. The end result, given enough time, would be herd immunity, probably, in all likelihood. If everything we anticipate about the virus holds true. There's still a lot of unknowns about reinfection, but I think we're going to learn a lot more about that before the end of the year. I think down the road, after the vaccination program gets rolled out and a significant number of people get vaccinated, I think that's when these restrictions really start to modify quite a bit. I think maybe even before then, but I wouldn't hold my breath about anything before the end of the year too much. Like you mentioned, it'd be nice to have some of the counties like ours that have such a good track record compared to the bigger counties downstate and elsewhere in the country, give us more local flexibility. I'm all for that as well. I think, one of the, as you point out, and this is an important point for people to understand, it does not take much on our daily case rate to tip us into that tier, but operationally, 1 extra case or 2 extra cases reported to us means nothing to us if it isn't impacting our medical system. And I will say this, the state is aware of this. I pointed this out to them other counties have pointed out to them, both from supervisors and from health officers. I think we all understand this, and I think the state understands it as well. And that's why they've opened the door on this adjudication process to include basically us going to them and saying, look, this is our operational picture. These extra cases mean nothing to our operational picture. Our hospital is not impacted. Our medical system's not impacted. You need to give us a break on this. We haven't tested it yet because it has not come up with a small county as far as I know. So we'll have to see how it plays out. But based on what I'm hearing from the people who are responsible for this process, they're well aware of this fact for small counties, and they're willing to listen to us. So I think that's the first stage to get that flexibility. Down the road, as the impact of vaccination takes hold, I think they're going to give greater flexibility, and they really will start relaxing these restrictions. I don't believe that CDPH wants to impose economic hardship on anybody. They're trying to find the right balance. And it's been, kind of a stop and go method. You kind of experiment a little bit. And that's really what we saw this summer. And we also saw some trends early in the summer that were pretty scary for parts of this state. I mean, there were places in this state where they were transferring people out daily because their hospitals were full. And that's, people have to keep that in mind when they're thinking about this. It could still happen again until we get enough people vaccinated or enough people through this virus and hopefully immune. And that's really the game plan. And I think a lot of this is going to really work itself out over about the next 6 to 8 months.
I do appreciate your efforts. I know your voice is active at the state level along with other supervisors. I think that's important to know that our constituents who speak to us about these issues almost on a daily basis, and to yourself, know that we continue to advocate for a different model for Del Norte County. And as our neighbors to the north, Curry County are quite a bit more lax as they're going into fall season with weather setting in. My fear for our restaurants and for our businesses that rely on those type of efforts of indoor dining, I think the expediting those conversations and getting beyond the listening standpoint, we should, as a board, continue to push on those efforts. And I want to continue to say thank you, Dr. Raywald, for making your case to those people at the state at large in trying to get our doors open sooner than later.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other questions or comments from board members?
I just want to also just say thank you, Dr. Raywald. I'm sure you didn't ever feel or see in the future that as a public health officer, you would be rallying for us at a state level in a political arena. But thank you for fighting for us up there. The rural voice, it's really important to be heard because like we always say, we are not LA County. We're a whole different animal up here. And so thank you for pointing it out and letting Del Norte County's voice be taken to the state level in Sacramento so they understand what's going on up here. I really, really appreciate it, as do I'm sure all the constituents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the thanks.
Hey, remind everybody to get their flu shots, Dr. Raywald.
Yes, everybody needs to get flu shots. Absolutely. Should line up first.
Anybody, anything? Thank you, Dr. Raywald. Appreciate it. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Talk to you all later.
All right, thanks. Okay, so now we're going to move into a short presentation from Jeff Marzell from the Gasky Ranger District. He's going to give us an update on the Slater fire. Jeff, go ahead.
All right. Hey, good morning, everyone. So yes, I'm here to provide an update on the Slater fire. Do you guys hear me okay?
Yeah,
my internet connection is great. You hear me okay? Okay, good. So I'm going to share my screen. I hope this works so you guys can get a look at the map of where the fire is. So hold on one sec. Do you guys see that okay?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Now we can do this. So let me start out by kind of giving you a little bit of background. You may know this already, but perhaps there are folks on the call who are on this video who are not quite aware of what happened. So the Slater fire began in Happy Camp on September 8th. And on the morning of September 9th, it had moved over 15 miles. and burned all the way into Oregon, crossed Highway 199, and burned onto the Smith River NRA near the tunnel. This was an extreme fire event. And considering the extreme nature of the event, Gasky was evacuated, as you know, that morning. And I'll be honest with you, there was a real fear that Gasky would have had fire on it by noon of last Wednesday. Fortunately, that didn't happen. The unprecedented fire was driven by extreme wind, heat, and historically dry fuels. It was a terrible 24 hours for Happy Camp. I used to live there. Over 150 homes in Happy Camp were destroyed, including my old house. There were 2 fatalities. In Del Norte County, on the far side of the tunnel, we did lose 2 homes. So pretty sad situation all around. Current situation. And this is a map of the fire. I have 2 screens, so I'm going to kind of do this side face thing. But when I'm looking at this over here, because it's easier to see it, this is basically the west side of the fire.
Can you blow it up, Jeff? Because I'm having a hard time seeing your screen, even on the big screen.
Well, oh, I see. Hold on a minute. Let me just do something here. Is that better?
Far better.
Okay. Let me pull this up a little bit. So I'll just kind of narrow into this a little bit. Of course, here's the county line. Here's Highway 199, just to give you some reference points. Idlewild Station's about right at the bottom of my screen. And so that's kind of the fire on us. So the Slater fire more broadly stands at about 150,000 acres. It's burning on 3 different national forests, private lands, and BLM ground. So this is a very complicated fire. 2 regions, 2 states, 3 national forests, BLM, the National Park Caves Monument is threatened. So the social political has been really interesting for me. But the majority of the fire is on the Klamath National Forest at about 75,000 acres. Over 55,000 acres have burned on the Siskiyou, Rogue River Siskiyou National Forest. 12,000 acres of private lands have been burned up, including over 5,000 acres of green diamond timberland. And I've been in a lot of contact with them. Over 2,000 acres on BLM land, and on us, on the NRA, we've lost 4,186 acres. I shouldn't say lost. It's burned 4,186 acres, but the fire has burned pretty hot. So the north zone of the fire, what you're looking at, and it goes up into the Cave Junction area and along Highway 199, is being managed by the Northern Rockies Incident Management Team. Like I said, the fire for us is burning in the northwest corner of my district here, near the tunnel, and it's burning on both sides of Highway 199, as you can see. So on the south side of the fire, so here's the fire, came on us. So it came on us that morning, and to be honest, it came on us, it kind of got caught up right here in Oregon Mountain Road area, and then it also got caught up here in Kanopke Creek. It really hasn't moved out of both of those areas. And so on the south side of the fire right here, this is Kanopke Creek Road. The firing is being held on that road. All of our available fire resources are concentrated on that fire line and have been burning off of that road the past week plus. And the plan is to burn off this road and to tie this road right like this. We're going to connect this two roads here and bring it all the way around, and basically connect it all the way up into the Siskiyou Wilderness and to the Natchez fire scar, which was 2 years ago. And the plan is to burn off of all of that line. And so as the fire approaches, it hits the black, and that's the end of it. So that's the plan for that side. On the north side, you can see this is Monkey Ridge, and there's a dozer line right here. They put a dozer line in from the top of the ridge all the way down to Highway 199. The fire has been caught up here for over a week, hasn't moved much, but the line is in there. So once resources become available, we are going to burn off of that line. And then you can see there's also a dozer line that goes all the way up like this into Oregon. So the plan is to catch it here, and then catch it all the way out here. It's kind of like a catcher's mitt. So that's the plan. So the critical values at risk, though, and the reason we were concerned around this originally is we have the transmission line up here, which is right here. And we also have a communication site up there. In Gasky and Big Flat, level 1 evacuations are still in effect, but likely will be lifted soon. I have a meeting tomorrow with the team, with your Del Norte County Sheriff, and myself and some of my fire management professionals here. And we're looking at probably lifting that level 1, considering where we are in this fire. Because of the unprecedented nature of the fire season, as you guys all know, you're all watching the news up and down the Pacific Coast. We've really struggled with gaining resources on this fire. This is a really unique fire for me. We've been completely dependent on local resources. That's Gasky Fire Resources. And as I heard earlier, definitely the local Gasky volunteers, Crescent City, Fort Dick, and up into Brookings Harbor. All of those volunteers have really provided the backbone of the resources over the past 7 to 10 days, and we cannot thank them enough. They really do deserve a lot of credit. Though with the improving fire situation across the Pacific states, we are beginning to see additional resources coming in. I was at our briefing this morning and I noticed a crew came in. We have 2 more engines, and there's talk about a lot more stuff coming in. So I do think we are turning the corner on the resource scarcity. And in the county, the overall federal, state, and local response has been highly integrated and very impressive. And you guys are all aware of this. The communication and the relationships are very strong. And I really do feel there's a strong sense of common purpose in responding to this fire. And I'm really proud to be part of that effort and proud to be part of this county. You know, just values at risk, things that we think about and we've been thinking about the past week. As always, the priority risk are firefighter safety, public safety, homes and businesses. And I think other than the 2 homes lost, unfortunately, in Del Norte County, we've done a good job in protecting those critical values at risk. All the homes south of where the fire are prepped. Idlewild is prepped. So if fire was to come down, we feel like we're in a pretty good place to keep fire from negatively affecting those structures. Critical infrastructure, I mentioned that. We've worked really hard to make sure the fire doesn't get into that power line, the communication site, and of course, reopening Highway 199 was a priority for me, for the district, and for the team. And Caltrans did a tremendous job getting that road cleared along with their efforts with ODOT. So I'm really glad to see that highway is reopened. Critical value at risk for us. But of course, we're always working to protect, ecological resources, including timber, cultural resources, wildlife habitat, water quality, recreational resources, and the Smith River Canyon Viewshed. I should note that I've provided updates to the board before about all the great work we're doing. The North K project was the most recent project that we just completed. We just had this decision signed. We just put that into an agreement and a SPA with the Mule Deer Foundation. We're planning on doing that logging maybe this year, early next year. Unfortunately, the majority of those timber units were burned up. And so we may have to reconsider how we're going to move forward with that project. So I wanted to mention that. And lastly, in situations like this, and I've been around a lot of these, the relationships are also a value at risk. And, but I'd say, I'm working as hard as I can to ensure that our efforts are coordinated, transparent, and really protecting the interest of Del Norte County. So don't want to negatively affect our relationship because we do recognize we manage the majority of this county. And I feel a deep sense of obligation to making sure that the residents of this county are protected and safe. We've had 3 well-attended public meetings in Gasky. I've kept up a daily stream of public information, both virtual and physical, to our communities, cooperators, stakeholders, and partners. Hopefully you've been seeing those updates. Weather, people always like to know what's going on with the weather. And we are anticipating favorable weather conditions through Friday with a high probability for significant rainfall totals tomorrow into Thursday. I've seen upwards of 3/4 of an inch up where the fire is, maybe even higher. I'm not a weatherman. I can't guarantee that's going to happen, but the confidence is building on that. However, beginning Saturday, Sunday into next week, we're looking at record heat, dryness, and unfavorable winds. So, but with the rain and kind of where we're at now, overall, we're feeling pretty good that we'll be able to hold the fire where it is. Lastly, I know there's questions around the closure order, and it's related to the fire efforts that are going on. And as you all know, there is a regional forest closure order in place on the Six Rivers National Forest. It expires on September 24th in a few days. And so the majority of the forest of the Smith River NRA will reopen. However, because of the fire activity and all the management efforts we're doing up there, for the safety of the public and for the safety of our firefighters, we will have a closure in place. It's proposed that basically runs up Patrick's Creek Road up to the Oregon border, to the east, basically this whole area up here. And then also the Jawbone Road, which is the 17905. We're gonna have that road closed to Doe Flat Campground and all the lands north and east of that up to the Oregon border. As soon as we can get this fire contained, mopped up, we will open the rest of the district as soon as possible. But it's in the interest of public safety and firefighter safety that we keep those sections of the district closed. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all today. I always enjoy these times. I like this opportunity to communicate what's going on here in the district. It has been a challenging couple of weeks. Folks are tired. We've been working really long hours, but folks really do deserve a lot of credit, both here in the district, on the forest, and across the county in the response to this yearly unprecedented fire. But again, I do feel like we're kind of moving in the right direction, and I do believe we are turning the corner on this fire. The calendar is telling me that it's almost October, but again, no guarantees. We'll continue to work at this the best we can and provide updates as necessary. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
And of course, I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for Jeff that he hasn't already answered in his presentation? Chris?
Yeah, the lime green color, I'm assuming that's wilderness area on your map.
This?
Down in the bottom.
I'm sorry?
Right hand corner.
Oh, sorry. Yep, you got it. Yes, that is the Siskiyou. Yep. Thank you, Chris. That is the Siskiyou Wilderness, correct.
Can you scroll over and show me how that's impacted the wilderness areas in Del Norte County?
Hold on a second. So how the fire is impacted, or the road closure, or?
How the fires move through the wilderness areas is more my question at this time.
Oh, I got you. Got it. So this is wilderness here. The fire, of course, here's the fire's edge as it's gotten into the wilderness. What this map isn't really showing, at least I can't see it, is where the fire is in the wilderness. But this right here is part of the Siskiyou Wilderness. It kind of goes like this. That is on the Happy Camp side of the wilderness. And the wilderness boundary, it's hard for me to see it on this map, but it kind of goes something like this. But the fire has burned into this section of the Siskiyou Wilderness up in here, and it's kind of just holding right in here. And it hasn't really moved much in the last couple of days. And with the amount of rain we're thinking that we're going to get in the next day or so, we don't anticipate it to be moving much more than that. But again, with that hot, dry weather coming back in, there's always the possibility that it could pick up and move, depending on what rain we get.
Are you familiar enough with those areas to tell the board whether or not that's old fire scar that it's moving into, or is it more of a late successional forest?
Yep, good question. No, I'm pretty familiar. This area where it burned into has definitely seen some fire. I could always provide you a fire history map that would make this a little bit more clear. But this area, this is some of why we're concerned. Some really critical ecological values at risk in here. This area has not burned in historical times. And this area has not burned much either. But this whole area to the south, past the line, is where the Nat Cheese fire burned in 2017. And that's why we want to connect this road to the fire scar, which is farther south. And so, but this area right here, as far as I know, has not seen a lot of fire.
Okay, thank you, Jeff.
Sure.
Okay, any other supervisors have questions?
Yeah, Jeff, can you hear me okay?
I do.
Jeff, can you hear me okay?
Yep, I hear you.
Okay,
Yeah.
You know what I was kind of wondering about, and you didn't really address it, the quality of air up where you are. I know your employees and staff and up in Idlewild are breathing this. Do you have any concerns? Do you have any difficulty breathing? Or I'm repeating a story of someone who was driving up through 199 and said the smoke was pretty bad going up to the tunnel. She turned around, went back the other way, and went up 101 to get to Medford, a long way around, of course. So can you address the air quality up in your area?
Sure. Hopefully you've been getting provided some updates on that. We have been providing air quality updates. But anecdotally speaking, the weather has really improved and it's in our favor right now. Air quality is fine in Gasky. It's been like that for the last few days. But early, the first week of the fire, when we had those deep inversions and when we had all those trees that I just recently burned, the air quality here was terrible. It was absolutely awful. And it was hazardous for at least a week. It's gotten a lot better. The amount of fire activity has diminished significantly. The winds, like I said earlier, are in our favor. We're getting west winds right now, northwest winds. They're kind of pushing everything to the east. I can't speak for what's going on in the Illinois Valley today, but the air quality has improved dramatically here in Gasky and up towards Ottawa, at least the last 3 to 5 days.
Thank you for the update.
Now with that east wind coming back next week, depending on how much fire activity we have, that we could get a reversal in some of the air quality next week with that reversal in wind.
Supervisors, anything else? Any more questions or comments to Jeff?
Just a comment, Jeff, and you've mentioned it extensively in your report this morning. I just got to say thank you again for your communication with county staff, our sheriff's department, our fellow neighbors from Curry and Josephine counties. I know you've stood in front of this board over the last couple of years and been very concerned and extremely proactive about fire. And the efforts that you and your team have made, in particular around Gasky and backburning, providing fuel breaks, I couldn't help but think during the last 2 weeks that those efforts and those strides you've made personally and your staff to get Gasky protected would have helped us significantly in this battle had the fire moved down the canyon at the rate it was moving. So I really want you to send the message to your staff today that's listening or in the coming weeks that Del Norte County, in particular Gasky, says thank you for all your efforts in the face of this fire.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I will send that message on. Thank you.
Okay, supervisors, anybody else got any questions or comments? Jeff, thank you so much. I know, there was one thing, the rest area. Did it survive at the tunnel?
The rest, yeah, no rumors about that. Yes, the rest area totally survived. Yeah, and so did the bug station.
Yeah, no, yeah. Well, I was fortunate or unfortunate early that morning when the fire was right at 199. I was headed to Medford and drove through the fire. It was probably one of the last cars that made it through that day and didn't make it back that way. I had to come back over 42. But I know that it's kind of nice to have this little update from you since we're on our agenda here coming up shortly. We're going to be approving hopefully our fire safe plan. And I know that, we've worked on that for quite a while, and the fire hazard severity zones are certainly largest within your area. As a matter of fact, very close to 100% of it. So, or a good 90% anyway, in those hazard zones. Yeah. So I know we'll be looking at this continually, and you certainly probably have a different perspective on some of this now, I'm sure. But I appreciate the report. Thank you so much. Thank your crew and everybody you've worked with. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff.
And thank you. And let me know if you want another update. I'm always available for you. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Is there any public comment, Kylie, on this update?
Yes, give me just one moment.
Oh, I almost left the meeting. You got lucky.
Linda, you're on. You just need to unmute your mic.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, Mr. Marcel, I was told that you could get to Medford on the tow road. I don't know where that is, but I wanted to go out and find it. Is that true? Or is he gone?
I'm sorry. You broke up. Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah. I was informed that, and I don't know if it's true, that you could get to Medford by means of the tow road.
The Gasky Toll Road.
Yeah, the toll
Is that the
road.
question?
Yes.
Yeah, not now, but you can. There is a back way that kind of goes up and around and connects to the Weimar Road, I believe, and then kind of drops into Oregon.
Right,
near
O'Brien. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, you
So
can do that. I wouldn't recommend that right now, though.
Oh, is there fire near the toll road?
Highway 199 is open, so the quickest way to get to Medford is Highway 199. It's
Okay.
open.
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
you're
I'm just
good.
looking in case something happens, you know. I need
Yeah,
that.
no, you're good right now, but there are alternatives, but that road right now would be going through an active fire area, so we wouldn't recommend it. But again, Highway 199 is open, and I don't see it closing anytime soon with the way things are going right now.
Okay.
But
Thank you so
definitely,
much for
as you
your
get up toward the
service.
fire area, I'd ask you to slow down for the firefighters a little bit as we move through that area, because there
Yes.
is active management going on up there right now.
Okay, thank you.
Kylie, is there anything else?
Chair, I am not seeing any other public comment at this time.
Okay, great. Thanks again, Jeff. We're going to move on in our agenda now to
You're welcome. Take care.
discuss. Okay. Discuss and adopt the fire safe plan as requested by the fire safe plan director. Do we have somebody speaking to this? Jay, do you know?
I do not believe there is anybody online at this point to present.
Okay.
Chair, I have reached out and I didn't get a response, so.
Yeah, no, I know. I spent several hours going over it, a fairly lengthy document, a lot of information in it. So I would.
Who do we ask questions of?
The point person has been Becky Barlow, and that's who Kylie has reached out to in order to have her on when there was a discussion if there were any questions. It might be better to table this until we can get a confirmation and get her online at some point.
Is there a rush to do it at this point?
I'm not aware of a deadline. It's been going on for a long time. It's a long process and a lot to put the plan together, but I'm not aware of a hard, fast deadline at this point.
Yeah, I would definitely encourage tabling it until we could address maybe concerns that the board does have with the plan, if there are concerns, if there's no rush to get it done at this time. I know this is the second time this has now occurred, so hopefully Kylie will get some response from Ms. Barlow.
I'm
Yeah,
also good with tabling it, Chair.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with tabling it. Maybe offline, if you've got some concerns, you could maybe talk to the director, and maybe we could get those so she has some preparation and questions that you're going to ask.
Yeah, in case she goes back and in case she goes back and listens to this recording, I'll just make the board aware. More than a decade ago, the Resource Advisory Committee.
Chris, I hate to break in on you, but I do see Becky Barlow's name under the attendees now.
Okay, well, this is perfect timing.
Becky, are you on there?
I'm trying to promote her as a panelist, Chair. Give me just 1 second.
Thank you.
Becky, you're on. You just need to unmute your mic. She might be having technical issues because her mic is still muted. And unfortunately, I don't remember off the top of my head.
There we go.
She's unmuted.
She's on.
I'm on. Yeah, I was listening. I was on for a while and you guys were saying you didn't see me. I was like, no, I'm here. So, yeah, I'm here to answer questions if you have them.
Chair Hemmingson, may I?
Yes, please, Chris, go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, Becky.
Good morning.
That's perfect. Stop. You're good now. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us this morning. My questions have to do with the Fire Safe Council's chipper and the current plans for that chipper as it relates to providing it to the community and other fire districts within our area so they could kind of reduce fuels loads around residential properties. What's the Fire Safe Council's plans for that chipper?
In reality, I'd love to just get rid of that chipper because it's so old and breaks down so much. But until we can get grants for a new one, we're just, putting it together with duct tape right now. It is out there for anybody who needs it. We do have a charge for it now because of the cost of the repairs and everything else. And we have one person who you can call to get the information and set up for him to bring it to you, or you go get it. The super plan that I would actually love to have is to be able to pay somebody to stand by the chipper anytime it gets used, because a lot of the problems that we have is when we give it to somebody and they don't know how to use it quite right, even though we give them the big safety spiel and how to run it. And that's how it usually gets broken. But as of now, it's just there for the public or communities. The city uses it a lot, and I don't charge the city because it's the city that actually helps keep it going for us. So, but that's where we're at.
Okay. Thank you, Becky. I appreciate that. And if I could express some of my concerns, before I was a supervisor, I sat on the Del Norte Resource Advisory Committee that helped to purchase that chipper. And it was the previous fire council's intent with the purchase of that chipper for the fire council that it be utilized effectively in those rural areas, those WUIs, as everybody likes to call them, to help reduce fuel loads and to do it in a cost-effective manner. I understand the issues that you've presented specific to the high cost of maintenance and attaching a fee to it. With the RAC now coming on board again, I think there's potential for funding opportunities through the RAC again for a chipper. If the opportunity does arise and the RAC foresees some of the monies from Title II or III flowing towards the cost of those chippers, I'd like to see that service maintained for free, but with the idea that some more rigorous training potentially be involved, as you suggested, because there is a lot of knowledge that is lost between the time you give the safety presentation to the time it hits the homeowner potentially's yard to reduce those fuel loads. I believe that was a very effective program at its time. I do hope you continue it, and really appreciate your time as a volunteer with the Fire Safe Council.
And it was free for a long time until the grant parts kind of. Now remember, I didn't take over this till after this has already been gone.
Understood.
But it was free because that's the way it was in the RAC grant, but there was a time limit on that. And that time did expire, and that's when they started charging. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and we would absolutely, we're hoping when the rec is starting that we can look into getting a new one. So
Well, there will be a member of the Board of Supervisors on there to probably help advocate for that when the time comes.
And Becky, what is the charge?
great. You know, I don't have that right off the bat, because I don't really deal with that part anymore. I think it's like $20 an hour or up to $150 a day, something like that. I can't remember.
Okay. And is there an urgency to get this fire safe plan adopted by the Board of Supervisors? Is there?
The grant expires December 31st. So we have to have everything done by the 31st.
Okay, and do we hold something else that you need to be doing on this if we don't adopt it, say at this meeting, if the supervisors want to carry on? I don't know if that's the case now that we've had a chance to address you, or is there anything that you want to address in this fire safe plan to us anything?
It's pretty straightforward, and it wasn't really a brand new one. It was more an update of the old one. Right. And the main thing, like for me, because I'm doing the grant, is with COVID, we had to stop all the public meetings and things like that. And so our match time is kind of hard to track. So, I mean, you know, and that has nothing to do with the plan, but it was just on the grant itself. There's plenty of time. All I ask is that if you guys would get it to me, if you choose to sign for it in November, that gives us a month of leeway time. Okay.
Chair Hemmingson, I do have another question for Ms. Barlow.
Okay, go ahead.
Ms. Barlow, I was maybe having trouble finding this in the plan, but the Fire Safe Council also acquired and installed with Resource Advisory Committee dollars back in the day, fire tanks throughout the county. Many of those areas haven't been maintained in quite some period of time. Could you kind of speak to maybe the addressing of maintenance issues of those areas?
So the tanks, and actually we just put in 9 more last year, and in different areas. When I took over, we couldn't find the map where all of them were. We've been trying to quote unquote remap them or find the old map and recheck everything. As far as maintenance, we did, when we put in the grant for the 9 new ones, part of that grant was for the upkeep of the old ones also. So if there's parts that are broken and things like that, then you just need to get a hold of Fire Safe Council and we'll get up there and fix them. Tim Sanderson is the one who does that. As far as filling them, the local fire departments, Gasky or Hyuchi or Smith River, they're the ones that fill those tanks. I know we've had some that have been quote unquote moved into private property owners' places, things like that. But we do try to keep track. CAL FIRE does a really good job checking them out for us also.
Okay. I do know there's quite a few in Hyuchi that haven't been visited in years. And my hope is that, like for instance, this fire season, I can't remember some of these tanks being visited for quite some period of time or even being filled. So I'd love to work on that with you, or at least connect back if we could find some of those old maps. I do know the Forest Service would have those as the granting agency for those title funds. So we could also revisit that with staff of the Forest Service and at their Bayshore Mall office. So Thank you for helping to address that, Becky.
No problem.
Are there any substantial changes that you'd like to see, Chris, in the plan?
No, Jerry, I'd like to move forward with approving the plan if the board feels that way and make that motion at this time.
Okay, I have a motion. Looking for a second. I have a motion and a second. Motion by Supervisor Howard, second by Supervisor Berkowitz. Is there any public comment, Kylie?
Chair, I'm just going to give it a few more moments. And I'm not seeing any public comment at this time.
Okay, so we'll close the public comment, bring it back to the board. If there's no further questions, Kylie, would you poll the vote, please?
Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes.
Supervisor Cowan?
Yes.
Supervisor Berkowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson?
Yes. Okay, thank you. We're going to move on. Thank you, Becky, for being on. Appreciate it.
No problem.
We're going to move on to budget transfers, items 16, 17, and 18.
Make a motion to,
Sorry, go ahead, Supervisor Cowan.
make a motion to approve budget transfer 0626, 0627, and 0628.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment, Kylie?
Chair, I'm not seeing any public comment at this time.
Any questions or comments from board members? Kylie, would you please poll the vote?
Supervisor Berkowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Supervisor Cowan?
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson?
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to legislative and budget issues. Item number 19, we're going to hopefully conclude this public hearing and adopt the 2020-2021 fiscal year recommended budget as final, finally determined at all special districts budgets by resolution as presented over the course of the budget hearing. And 2, adopt resolution 2020-040, a resolution fixing tax rate for the fiscal year as required by government code. And 3, adopt a resolution 2020-041, setting the appropriation limits for the fiscal year. And 4, approve the annual children's budget as presented. And 6, approve the position changes as outlined in attachment A as requested by the auditor, controller, and county administrative officer. Jay, anything to add?
You have gone over everything that we're asking to be recommended today. Since the opening of the public hearing, there have been a few changes that have been addressed through the auditor's office, as is fairly typical. I think as we went through the introduction when the public hearing was opened, same typical issues of our budget on an annual basis. We struggled to balance without one-time funding. And again, we do have some one-time funding through the CARES Act. And as such, that assists in offsetting costs through public health with the COVID emergency as well as public safety. At this time, we're asking for the conclusion and adoption of the budget, and we will move on with the rest of the fiscal year. And one thing I will note, as I noted in the last one, the Border Coast Regional Airport Authority is committed to paying their payment this year. And I know that was noted earlier in a public comment that they should, well, they should, and they have. So, and we appreciate that.
Make a motion to approve.
I'd second that motion.
I got a motion and a second. Questions or comments from board members?
Yeah, Kylie, I just want to make sure there's no oversight here. We went from numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and then jumped to 6. There's no 5 in there. Is there, Kylie, on the item 19?
There is no 5 in there.
Okay,
It's a typo. We'll amend that to be number 5.
I apologize for that.
no problem. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Any public comment, Kylie?
I'm not seeing any, but I'm just gonna give it just a couple more moments.
Okay.
Chair, I'm not seeing any at this time.
Okay, since there's no further
Chair.
discussion, please pull.
Chair.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
Chair,
go
if I
ahead,
may
Chris.
just make the statement, and I just want to emphasize to the board and the public that is listening that CEO Serena's comments as it relates to just basically getting the balanced budget was terribly difficult for us this year. And if it weren't for some of the federal dollars that came down through COVID, that would not have happened. We are going to continue to face, as the years come, to these fiscal tightenings of our belt. And that absolutely 100% impacts every bit of our general fund dollar and the monies that roll down to our general fund from Health and Human Services. And with that, I want to be very clear that our effort to continue to try to at least provide those services that our constituents demand of us as taxpayers is getting increasingly difficult for the county to come up with that balanced budget for our general fund. And with the measure that is on the ballot for public safety, for roads, for blight, those kind of issues.
Chair,
that
can we call the question? Can we call the question rather than have a speech here? I'd like to vote on this.
If you don't mind, Supervisor Gitlin, I will finish.
I actually do. You're going on to a whole different subject. Let's approve the budget and worry about next problems next year. Can we call the vote, Mr.
We got a
Chairman?
pot and kettle thing going on here. Go ahead,
I'm asking
Chris.
for the vote.
Finish up, Chris, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair Hemmingson. I do appreciate your allowing me the time to reflect on our budget needs and what this means moving forward. And I do appreciate, again, CEO Serena's comments that the belt tightening will be felt by us with the measures that the board does have in place for November. The community should recognize that that will help those services that were backfilled this year by those coronavirus relief funds to really help make the county whole and be able to balance. But next year, there won't be coronavirus relief funds, and we'll be back in the same position. So knowing that is extremely important for you constituents that will go to the ballot. So just please be aware of that. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Kylie, would you please poll vote?
Chair, I do have somebody raising their hand for public comment. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, give me one moment. Linda, you are on.
Thank you. Yes, I noticed in item number 9 that you will be receiving $1,670,409, and that's for, I guess, just testing until November 17th, 2022. So when Mr. Howard says that you guys got cleared for the budget because of the CARES money, does this not apply to that as well? Because this will be helping with the budget somehow. I'm sorry, Mr. Howard, I disagree with you, and what you're stating to the public is probably not very accurate. Thank you.
Well, you don't need to apologize. Staff could absolutely clarify your question and how that money is going into backfill losses to our general fund.
Item number 9 is definitely in our budget. It is an MOU for certain services. It is not part of the CARES Act money. It is not something that assisted in balancing our budget either. It's for specific services and entering into an agreement with Humboldt County. Our budget, when we talk about our budget, typically it is about our general fund, and our non-general fund typically is allocations of state and federal money. At this point, the one-time funding through CARES Act offset costs that are associated with COVID-19, which assists us in getting balanced. It is not all of what it takes to get to a balanced budget. And you can speak with individual departments because we sat down with them and we go through them line by line in order to make sure that what their needs are in order to provide existing services is still there, while also tightening up wherever we can. And we will continue to do that. I've been here doing this now for the 10th budget, and our auditor controller is on. He can answer any questions also. The budget team does this on an annual basis. It will not change. And at this point, we are fortunate that we do have some one-time money that is offsetting some of those costs.
Patty, if there's no further public comment, would you please poll the vote?
Supervisor Gill,
Yes.
Supervisor Berkowitz,
Yes.
Supervisor Howard,
Yes.
Supervisor Cowan,
Yes.
Chair Hemmingson.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. I think that's all. We hit everything, Kylie?
Yep.
We are adjourned. Our next meeting is October the 13th, 2020. Good morning to you all.
Thank you, staff. Thank you, Chair.
Have a great week.
You too.